Hey there pilots, this is Dauntless Sam, and today we'll be looking at the history of the Polikarpov I-15 and its flight characteristics in War Thunder. The Polikarpov I-15 was a Soviet biplane fighter aircraft of the 1930s. Nicknamed Chaika, in Russian for seagull, because of its gold upper wings, it was operated in large numbers by the Soviet Air Forces, and together with the Polikarpov I-16 monoplane, was one of the standard fighters of the Spanish Republicans during the Spanish Civil War, where it was called Chato, Snubnose, in the Republican Air Force, or Curtiss because of its resemblance to the Curtiss F-9C Sparrowhawk in the National Air Force. The design for the 14th fighter for the VVS, the I-14, started as an advanced monoplane under the direction of Andrei Tupolev. He grew concerned that the design would not mature and ordered two backup biplane designs as the I-14A and B just to be safe. Polikarpov had just been released from prison in August 1932 and was handed the I-14A project. When both the I-14 and I-14A were ordered into production, Polikarpov's design, a development of the I-5 fighter, became the famous I-15. The first flight was made in October 1933 and was powered by an imported Wright R-1820 Cyclone engine. The I-15, also known by its development name TSKB-3, was a small biplane fighter with a gold upper wing. The single-bay wings were of wooden construction, while the fuselage was of mixed steel and duralumin construction, with a fabric-covered rear fuselage. Production started in 1934, initially being powered by the M22, a licensed-built version of the Bristol Jupiter radial engine. While less powerful than the Cyclone, the M22-powered aircraft were still superior to the I-5, which it replaced, demonstrating excellent maneuverability. Production switched to the 700-horsepower M25 engine in late 1936. A total of 671 I-15s were built, 284 in the Soviet Union, and a further 287 under license by the CASA in Spain. The gold upper wing of the I-15 was unpopular with some pilots, as it was felt to restrict visibility. So Polikarpov's design bureau produced a revised version, again powered by the M25, with a longer span ungold upper wing. This version, the I-15 BIS, commenced production in 1937. A total of 2,408 I-15 BISs being delivered by the time production finished in 1940. In August 1937, the Chinese government signed a non-aggression pact with the USSR, and in autumn of the same year, the Soviet Union commenced to ship I-15s as a part of a program of military aid to the Chinese Air Force in its defensive war against Japan. More than 250 Soviet pilots volunteered to fly the 255 I-15s supplied to China in autumn 1937. By 1939, the total number of Polikarpov biplanes delivered to the CAF reached 347 I-15s and I-15 BISs. The I-15 BIS saw a great amount of action in Manchuria and in the various border clashes between the Soviets and the Japanese. In 1937, the I-15s in the hands of the Chinese Nationalist Air Force fought against invading Japanese, where the tough biplane began to meet its match in some of the newer, faster Japanese monoplanes. In 1939, Polikarpov fighters were used extensively during the battles of Khalkhin Gol. The battles were fought during the 11th of May through the 16th of September 1939, and involved more than 600 biplanes. When hostilities commenced, the only I-15 BIS in the area were the 14 aircraft of the 70th IAP. Their number increased in the following weeks. However, the Polikarpov pilots had been hastily trained, and they suffered heavy losses against the more experienced Japanese. During this conflict, the Soviet Union and Japan lost more than 200 aircraft each. The I-15 was used in combat extensively by the Republicans in the Spanish Civil War, and proved to be one of the best fighter biplanes of its time. The first batch of 25 Polikarpovs arrived in Spain on the 28th of October 1936 with 15 pilots. A few days later, a further group of 10 pilots and 15 aircraft arrived. The Soviet pilots soon entered in action. They had their baptism of fire on the 4th of November. On that day, I-15s shot down 2 Junkers Ju-52-3s, together with 2 CR-32s over Madrid, and forced to crash land a third Ju-52 and a Heinkel 2-seater. No losses were reported among Soviet pilots. During the next 2 days, pilots claimed 12 more victories, at the cost of 2 I-15s lost. In November, the number of combat-ready Polikarpovs in the central area had fallen to 15 aircraft. 7 had been lost in combat, 2 had force-landed, and 1 was undergoing repair. In December 1936 and January 1937, 2 more shipments of 30 Polikarpovs arrived in Spain, making it possible to form a complete combat unit of 4 I-15 squadrons. Until the spring of 1937, central Spain was the main theater of war of the I-15s, and in May 1937, another batch of 31 Polikarpovs landed in Spain, taking the total number of I-15s delivered to Republicans to 116. The exact number of I-15s lost during the Spanish War is difficult to determine, as the Republicans destroyed a number of them while retreating, and because there is little reliable data about the final stages of war. Losses were comparable to those of its principal rival, the Fiat CR-32. By the 1st of January 1939, 197 Polikarpovs had been lost, 88 shot down by enemy aircraft, and 9 by anti-aircraft artillery, 27 destroyed on the ground, and 67 written off in accidents. More than 1,000 I-15 BIS fighters were still in Soviet use during the German invasion when the biplane was employed in a ground attack role. By late 1942, all I-15s and I-15 BISs were relegated to second-line duties. In War Thunder, there are 4 reserve variants of the I-15: the I-15WR, the I-15 M22, the I-15R, and the I-15 BIS. Each of these planes are armed with 4 7.62mm PV-1 machine guns with 3,000 rounds and 2 50-kilogram bombs. The I-15 BIS can also be loaded with 6 RS-82 rockets. When flying out with these aircraft, be sure to remember your maneuverability. Force opponents low to the ground and engage them in a turn fight. You should be able to outturn almost any aircraft you engage. The I-15 has a considerable advantage against other reserve aircraft because of its 4 machine guns. All reserve aircraft in other nations are only armed with 2 machine guns. You are also loaded out with a considerable amount of ammunition, so don't be afraid to lay into the trigger a bit. As with all biplanes, it is important to remember that they have no armor and a low maximum speed. Always be on the lookout for opponents trying to boom and zoom you. I hope that this information has proved helpful. If you liked the video, please do like the video. If you would like to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and if you think that anyone else would be interested in this video, don't be afraid to share it. This is Dauntless Sam. Thanks for watching.